fraudulently signed property deeds, and a documented physical altercation inside an Atlanta home that resulted in a bodily strike, and an immediate police call resulted in $3 million in liquidated assets. Mendeecees Harris did more than simply confront his wife after discovering the paper trail that revealed Yandy Smith's private financial transfers to a man named Michael Mendeecees. He organized a systematic archive of more than 18 months' worth of hotel registry dates, encrypted text logs, and financial transactions. Police incident logs and an affidavit filed in family court state that the altercation escalated into violence when Mendeecees showed financial receipts proving he had personally taken out high-interest loans to pay for the house, while bank ledgers showed thousands of dollars simultaneously leaving Yandy's personal accounts and going straight into Michael's designated entity. A secret non-disclosure agreement, an undisclosed marriage certificate, a contested paternity issue, emergency injunctions, and an immediate legal lockout were all brought about by the physical assault seen on house surveillance film. This was no longer a private disagreement. It turned into an ongoing, multi-million-dollar fraud and assault probe. These are the precise bank records, sworn testimony, and documents that shattered this empire. It wasn't a sudden screaming match in front of photographers that started the disintegration of what was once thought to be a bulletproof reality TV empire. It started discreetly in Georgia's bank vaults, title transfer offices, and notary public desks. For many years, the public's perception of Mendeecees Harris and Yandy Smith was based on their mutual survival through legal challenges, unwavering commitment, and cooperative enterprise. However, a very other reality was taking place behind closed doors, behind the well-curated red carpet appearances and polished social media updates. One that would eventually set the stage for an unparalleled human and legal disaster, one that was created by unequal financial leverage, growing indebtedness, and a systemic liquidation of personal wealth. The financial dynamics of Mendeecees and Yandy's family over the past few years must be examined in order to comprehend the scope of the breakup between them. The power dynamics in the relationship started to drastically change after Mendeecees returned to civilian life, according to sources close to the couple's legal counsel. In an attempt to secure high-value commercial real estate and regain his independent financial footing, Mendeecees started leveraging every asset he owned. He made high-stakes real estate transactions, took out leveraged commercial loans, and methodically sold off parts of his private investment portfolio. The main goal was straightforward: fund the brand expansions and high-end lifestyle talent management firms that keep Yandy Smith's name at the top of media call sheets. Every dollar invested in their shared ecology was seen by Mendeecees as an investment in a shared future. In order to maintain cash flow via their joint accounts during periods of low productivity, he liquidated private accounts, pledged personal property titles as collateral for short-term liquidity, and approved high-interest personal loans. He gave up his own safety net and voluntarily put himself in a precarious financial situation because he thought the woman next to him shared his level of commitment. However, Mendeecees' legal team's subsequent private financial studies and forensic audits present a very different picture. Large amounts of money were discreetly leaving shared access entities in the opposite direction, while Mendeecees was selling properties and depleting his personal savings to pay for insurance, company overhead, and mortgage requirements. Hydroma tabloid reports did not reveal the earliest warning signs. They showed up in regular property title searches and tax returns. Mendeecees found that important residential properties were being refinanced without his complete operational knowledge. He had personally taken out high-yield notes on these homes to prevent foreclosure. Paperwork that revealed missing escrow monies, weird signatures on business paperwork, and mysterious wire transfers carried out at strange times of the night started to come to light. Administrative evasion, defensive arguments, or assurances that the funds were merely being reallocated into tax-sheltered holding companies to protect the family's long-term tax liabilities were used in response to Mendeecees' inquiries about missing capital or delayed returns on joint ventures. Unaware that the missing funds were not being invested in family trusts, corporate bonds, or commercial real estate, Mendeecees trusted his partner and accepted these justifications. It was being directed toward an entirely different covert existence. For months, the cash drain went unchecked. Mendeecees has essentially put himself in a difficult situation. Millions of dollars in debt were linked to his personal credit score. His individual property interests were either significantly encumbered or sold, and his liquid capital had reached a record low. He has essentially depleted his personal net worth to zero while funding an opulent lifestyle. The truth eventually came to light during a routine audit with an independent accountant trying to restructure a joint commercial loan that was on the verge of default. A number of recurrent wire transfers unrelated to company that came from accounts directly funded by Mendeecees' personal debts were noted by the accountant. The money was not going to internal employees, production teams, or vendors. They were routinely transferred into private accounts associated with Michael Mendeecees, a third party. Mendeecees sat in the accounting office, examining transaction statements from month to month, realizing that the very debts he had taken out to support his family were directly funding another man's personal spending, travel, and way of life. The financial trap had suddenly closed, starting a series of events that would end a marriage, provoke a violent altercation, and end up in the family court. The financial trail's discovery was only the beginning of a much darker catastrophe. Equipped with forensic banking records, Mendeecees Harris refrained from making a loud public outcry of accusations right away. Rather, he employed a separate private investigative company to track the physical and digital movements associated with the frequent wire transactions. Over the course of a 3-week surveillance period, the investigators discovered more than just financial crime. It revealed a well-planned side life that Yandy Smith had kept entirely secret from her family, spouse, and millions of public admirers. The quantity of the evidence that the investigators had gathered was astounding. It included cross-referenced cell tower ping data, timestamped security footage, and comprehensive hotel register logs from upscale establishments in Miami, Atlanta, and New York. The documents verified that Yandy was frequently checking into upscale apartments using corporate alias accounts connected to Michael Mendeecees, while Mendeecees was on business trips or overseeing their home properties. Itineraries for international travel that had previously been presented to Mendeecees as regular solo talent management business visits were displayed in flight manifests. The intercepted text message logs from shared cloud storage accounts, which revealed private conversations, joint financial planning for assets outside the marriage, and explicit discussions about keeping Mendeecees totally unaware of the arrangement until their joint real estate holdings could be fully liquidated, were even more damning. The couple's gated Atlanta home was the scene of the boiling point. Mendeecees showed up without warning with a real binder that included all of the printouts, bank statements, hotel receipts, and audio recordings. The first discussion started in the main suite behind locked doors, according to statements later given to attorneys. Demanding a line-by-line explanation for the missing assets and the proven paper trail linking his wife to Michael, Mendeecees spread the paperwork out across the table. What started out as a disagreement over money swiftly turned into a heated, violent altercation. As the evidence became indisputable, witnesses in the vicinity reported hearing shouts raised. Mendeecees presented an intercepted conversation memo when Yandy allegedly tried to discount the documents as fake setup attempts by outside adversaries. There is a clear audio recording of Yandy making light of Mendeecees' financial strain while talking about sending money straight to Michael. Any remaining calm in the room was destroyed by that particular audio clip. The verbal argument quickly descended into intense emotional instability. Mendeecees apparently lost control after discovering the full extent of the treachery and the total devastation of his financial freedom. He pushed forward, screaming that she had methodically ruined his life, while he bled himself dry to defend her reputation. This led to a physical conflict that culminated in a forceful blow to Yandy's face. The initial screams and the sound of the physical blow reverberated throughout the property, leading domestic workers to step in and separate the two right away. After withdrawing to a secured area of the house, Yandy called emergency dispatch services right away to report a violent marital conflict. The physical and psychological destruction was evident when law enforcement personnel arrived on the site. The floor of the house was covered in bank paperwork, furniture that had been moved, and physical red marks, according to the officers. Mendeecees did not try to escape. Instead, he stayed on the site, and gave the investigating officials the precise documents that had started the violent conflict. He freely acknowledged the verbal outburst and the physical blow, portraying it as the chaotic breaking point of a guy who had been routinely duped, misled, and financially destroyed by the person he most trusted, rather than as a singular act of random violence. Mendeecees' repeated statements were captured on tape by police body cam footage. "She sold my life out from under me, took all I had worked so hard to build, and gave it to another guy." Officers classified the incident as a domestic assault connected to an ongoing financial dispute, secured the site, recorded the physical injuries, and submitted an official incident report. Yandy permitted attending paramedics to record the obvious face damage for official police records, but she declined immediate emergency medical transfer. In order to prevent meanies from staying on the property and provide an instant legal buffer between the two parties, emergency temporary protective orders were created on the spot. News of the domestic call and the underlying physical attack started to circulate through legal channels within hours of the police clearing the house. The story was no longer kept in sealed marital beds or private bank vaults. The police report was formally recorded. The stage was prepared for an unholy public conflict that would irreparably destroy the last remnants of their public empire once the evidence binder was placed in legal custody. The first police action at the Atlanta home was only the beginning of a war that swiftly grew beyond a typical domestic violence probe. Mendeecees' legal team filed an emergency move in family court requesting a complete freeze on any shared corporate companies, real estate holdings, and liquid bank funds within 48 hours of the protection order being imposed. This filing included a comprehensive list of exhibits that shocked both mainstream media and legal circles. A sworn declaration claiming that Yandy Smith had secretly signed a legally binding marriage certificate with Michael Mendeecees in a foreign country, rather than just having an extramarital affair. The paper trail that was provided to the court was incredibly intricate. A private ceremony held in the Caribbean, complete with signed marriage licenses, business co-ownership documents, and joint estate planning documents prepared under a secondary legal identity, was discovered through public record searches that were cross-referenced with international registration files. This second marriage was purposefully concealed, according to the court documents, so that Yandy could continue to use Mendeecees' credit line, tax statuses, and public image to land high-value entertainment contracts, while also creating an entirely different financial portfolio with Michael. A second, far more explosive discovery surfaced from medical data subpoenaed by Mendeecees' attorneys while the court was handling the first emergency asset freeze. Documents revealing a recent sequence of high-risk prenatal consultations, blood panels, and ultrasound records at a private clinic in Miami appeared during a mandated discovery period concerning health insurance claims and combined medical bills. Genetic chronology markers cross-referenced with Mendeecees' travel history conclusively disqualified him as the biological father, while the clinical data verified an active pregnancy. Michael Mendeecees was directly responsible for the pregnancy. What was already a poisonous split turned into a catastrophic court conflict when the pregnancy and covert marriage were made public. Charges of systematic grand larceny, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and civil fraud were promptly added to Mendeecees' lawyers' files. They claimed that under the false pretense of safeguarding a joint marital estate, Yandy had purposefully twisted state marital regulations to persuade Mendeecees to liquidate his personal real estate portfolio and take out high-interest commercial loans. Whereas, in fact, those monies were being utilized to start a different family and take care of the child of another man. Yandy's legal counsel quickly began a counteroffensive in response to growing legal pressure and the possibility of serious financial culpability. They filed emergency requests to seal all court records, claiming that the financial and medical records were taken by physical theft, unlawful digital wiretapping, and unauthorized access to private cloud servers during the tense confrontation in Atlanta. In addition, Mendeecees' team filed official criminal charges for the physical strike, demanding that the district attorney pursue Mendeecees for domestic abuse to the fullest extent possible. The goal was to use a possible criminal conviction as leverage to extract a worldwide civil settlement. The legal impasse quickly turned into a full-scale campaign of attrition. Through his primary attorney, Mendeecees delivered a non-negotiable ultimatum. Yandy had 72 hours to hand over exclusive ownership of disputed real estate titles, execute a complete surrender of all rights to his liquidated assets, and consent to a full non-disparagement agreement. Mendeecees threatened to make the entire unredacted digital repository, which includes voice recordings, explicit text threads, security footage of the altercation, and offshore bank transfers, publicly available, and turn it over to federal tax authorities for independent fraud investigations if these conditions were not fulfilled. Formal cease and desist notices were sent back and forth as both legal teams dug in. Court-appointed receivers shut down holding corporations, and frozen bank accounts left multi-million-dollar real estate projects in jeopardy. A brutal, high-stakes struggle over financial survival, criminal responsibility, and personal destruction had entirely replaced the carefully created facade of a power couple. Before we conclude today's analysis, we would like to make it clear that this video was created solely for public discussion, general amusement, and opinion. The purpose of this information is not to criticize, target, or interfere